Take it away.
So, hey, my name's Ed Bensinger. I am the president and CEO of Bensinger Consulting. We are an MSP slash MSSP. Does everyone know the difference between the two? No. Okay. So MSP is managed service provider. MSSP is managed security service provider. So we kind of do both. We kind of walk the line. We work with mainly small to medium sized business. And we maintain their networks, we secure their data, we kind of do everything for them. We are their outsourced IT. So we also do what we call co-managed, where if it's a 1 or 2 man shop, we will basically take the higher level work for their on-site tech, or also help them with larger projects. So I started in IT in 1996, so I've been around a little while. I got to do my internship at Motorola when they were still here, and that's where I really got started in data security. We actually made motherboards that ran nuclear subs, so data security has been drilled into my head since the beginning. So 2003, I was actually working for APS, which is another nuclear environment. So they got that big nuclear power plant out there that we had to secure. I decided to basically take out, I was doing some side work on the side, and I decided to start my own business and bring some of what I do to the smaller market because they really needed it. So I really hope this is going to be an interactive session. So if I say things that you might not understand, please stop me. I will explain it. Because I did get quite a few questions after the dark web scans I ran the other night. So, feel free to keep them coming. If you did not get a dark web scan, because I think there's more people in here than I actually scanned, but if you want it, that's fine. Let me know. The results were kind of what I expected, to be honest with you. I did see some like email addresses I really didn't expect to see a whole lot off of, like an edu addresses and things like that. You guys probably don't put a whole lot of personal, you probably don't do a whole lot of personal, say surfing with that email address and log in as that. So you're generally not going to have as good results. People that had their email address for a while, they have a pretty long report. So, we all get compromised. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't control it. It's wherever you put your login information to. When they get hacked, they have your information. So, and if you don't think you're on the dark web, even though I didn't get any results, don't fool yourself. How many people had a job in the last 2 years or so? Just raise your hand. Pretty much everyone, right? You're compromised. So if you're, if everyone's familiar with the Orion hack that came out last summer, does everyone know what that is? The big SolarWinds Orion hack. They pretty much got government agencies, including basically like employment statistics for everyone. So that information has not really hit the dark web yet, but it'll be there eventually. So just be prepared. If you haven't changed your password, just do it. Because they have it. They have pretty much everything about you. So we're all compromised. It doesn't matter what you do. How many? I'm kind of curious. I want to know who I'm talking to. Everyone's kind of looking. as far as your, how many people know like how hackers, what they do with your data before it hits the dark web or anything like that? Does anyone really know where that data goes?
Well, from my understanding is that they usually just holding on to it and selling it afterwards.
Kind of, yes. So once once a large data breaches happen, they basically pick and choose the data they want to use it basically until the breach becomes public, and then they sell off your information, for 10 cents, 20 cents, dollar. It's, but they'll sell, 1,500 at a time, 2,000, 25,000 at a time. So you're, it's amazing how cheap your data really is. So, anyways, with that, I am curious because I know I'm going to talk a little more about social engineering. So that's what I'm here to talk about. And to me, I think social engineering is kind of fun. So, how many people, like, I just want a couple people just to answer me, like, because I'm curious, like, what kind of percentage of what do you think the percentages of hacks that occur actually are just like from external sources, like breaking through a firewall or something like that?
I feel like the majority are probably, done because in some way or form a human was compromised, whether it's an insider instigated attack or, maybe someone in some other way, like if someone was able to compromise an individual person versus hack through, a firewall.
Do you have an idea on percentage?
Oh, sorry, I guess I missed that. Probably, I'd say 90 to 10, 90% to person compromised, 10% pure hack, pure technical hack.
I would say it's about 1 to 5%, and I agree with him. It's like 90% above is a social engineering hack.
All right, good. So depending on who you talk to, anywhere from 70 to 90% is social engineering internal. So it's, or yeah, a lot of it comes from that. The other way some of the larger hacks happen, like everyone knows about the Target hack, right? That happened a few years ago. Does everyone know how that occurred? Anyone know how that happened?
It had something to do with like a contractor and their HVAC system. Some like third-party internal system was compromised.
You're right. So, which is why, do small businesses need, data security, right? And are they being used for social engineering? That's really where it's coming from. That AC company is now out of business. So they no longer exist because they basically let their, systems down. They had access to Target. And then once they got in through the HVAC system, they got all the data from Target. So, does everyone realize I'm doing some social engineering on you guys right now? How many realize it? I see some smiles, right?
Could it be a face recognition software?
No.
You're just slowly asking us questions,
Mm-hmm.
kind of using some awkward silence, getting us to talk.
Correct. What else am I doing?
You're actually getting acquainted with us so we can let our guard down and trust you.
That's good. What's another thing I'm doing?
Process.
Excuse me?
Tossing. waiting for us to fill in.
I'm doing that. But I'm looking inside of a lot of people's homes, or maybe some backgrounds.
But
Right?
what if their Zoom backgrounds where you're not in my home?
I'd guess yours is a background. So it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I assumed that was a background. Same as mine. Mine's a background, right? And I see, people covering up things in the background, blur.
Would you be able to do
It's a good
social
idea.
engineering by actually going into a profiles right now?
Which
From the app.
profiles?
Well, now I gave it away, right?
Which profile do you mean, Maria?
Oh, no, never mind. That's on a different app. I thought we were on the app that we use, which I'm not going
Oh.
to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out.
No, I don't have access to that. So, but yeah, I'm seeing some good questions. Little, your pet's name, favorite sports team, all that stuff. I can just really, if I really wanted to, I bet you I could pull most of that off of Facebook or Instagram or, LinkedIn or wherever you have your information, right? And then, most people do it. So,
Is it true that just by someone actually having your phone number, your name, and your email address, they're able to like pull everything off out of the internet?
you can pull a lot of information. Yeah. I mean, if you're a homeowner, right, all that information is public. So, I mean, you don't have to search too hard. I mean, with the housing the way it is right now, I get text messages and phone calls from realtors wanting to buy my house just because they know I own a place, right? So it's all public information. It's all out there. You have to assume everything is public and everyone knows pretty much everything about you. So just assume it. So in your courses here so far, did you guys talk about pen testing, anything like that? Does anyone know how many different types of pen testing there are?
So far, I've just heard of like 3.
What are those?
The common ones like the red hat, the blue hat. There's the purple hat. I think there's a black hat as well, right?
Well, yeah, well, black hat, those are a little bit different. Those are more like, we'll say hacking groups, I guess you want to say, if you want to call it that.
You mean like web application versus like network?
Yes.
Got it.
So Michael put it in the text box. He's on the chat. He's in the right realm there. So he's going down the right direction. So, I get approached quite a bit for, asking about pen testing and everything else. But what I've noticed is most people have no idea what that means. They just think it's attacking your firewall to see if you can break through, right? So, to be honest with you, the firewall is one of the easier things to secure. So as long as you buy a good one, most of it will do it for you as long as you configure it correctly. So the ones that are really, really good are the network penetration. Obviously, that's going to hit your servers, your switches, your routers, your workstations, all that other stuff. The web application, wireless network, the physical penetration. Does everyone know what that is? Basically going in and walking into a building and basically just plugging in a USB device or something like that. That's pretty common. And I walk into a lot of different office spaces and guaranteed half the time I can walk halfway into the building or through the building and no one ever says anything to me at all. So it's pretty interesting. So, and then of course, I want to touch on the social engineering and the cloud penetration. There's also mobile penetration also. So does anyone have a clue how the social engineering works for the pen test? No? Okay. So basically, say you guys hire me to do a social engineering penetration test. You know, someone's going to be a CEO, someone might be a CFO. It's definitely going to be a C-level exec. No one else is in the business is going to know this is happening. I will not ask the CEO or the CFO, whoever I'm dealing with, any information about the company. They just go research it on their own. LinkedIn is a huge way to do some social engineering with pen tests. So, because a lot of people, you know, they log in, this is where I work, blah, blah, blah. They show their job title. You can target whoever you want. And, you know, you can have a fake profile. You can do whatever. I mean, I have on LinkedIn, I don't know, I have 1,000, 1,500 contacts, right? So more than likely, I probably know someone in your company and can reach out and start making connections. And then basically work my way up the ladder and to gain, as we mentioned earlier, gain your trust, figure out what you do, talk about your cat. I'm not going to ask you anything about the company, right? At least I'm not try to at first. But yeah, it's all about gaining the trust, and eventually someone's going to slip. So that's why, you know, 70 to 90% of all the hacks are really internal. They come from internal, because eventually I'll send you an email, I'll send you something that will have a link in that'll give me access. Maybe even hack your password, whatever it is. So, because once I know things about you, I will start using those you know, what I know about you, your kids' names, your pets' names, anything out there, and try to figure out your password. So, and there's little bots that'll do it all day long. Now, if you don't have, we'll say, the web application or the network penetration, all that in place too, I can sit there and do it all day long and not get even caught. So, military up to security of their nuclear key holders. Do you want to talk about that, Eugene? You're on mute.
Yeah, I believe it happened like in the 80s where they sent in Navy SEALs to go ahead and abduct commanders of like nuclear subs, and they actually you know, held them as hostages, interrogated them, and gained access to nuclear launch sequences and stuff like that. And it was a big red flag within the military operations, and there was this teaching upper management that you can't be lax when it comes to security of that capability. And it was called Code Orange, and there was a whole, you know, book written about it.
Well, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to waterboard you.
Right.
And
Yeah, they went that way.
Since a lot of attacks come overseas, though, you probably don't have to worry too much about that. But I will give you an example of one of my clients. They are a pharmaceutical company, and there's actually a group. They're out of some Eastern European country. I forget exactly where it is. I'll think about it. But anyways, they, you know, we have their network locked down pretty good, and we provide them training for social engineering. We run anti-phishing campaigns, and we do all kinds of stuff. We're constantly training them. They they realize how important security is, not just physical data, network, but they also really value the social engineering. So their employees are they're pretty good for the most part. But there was a group that was specifically targeting pharmaceuticals, and the CEO of my client, they're kind of public, and his best friend is actually another kind of high profile figure, and they actually went after his company and found a hole. Now, they are, like I said, they're best friends, and their actual buildings are right next to each other, their businesses. But they actually went after his friend and hacked into their system, and basically got into his email and really tried to use him as a conduit into my client's network. They were actually sending emails, because they compromised his email, to employees inside. And to be honest with you, everyone, all the employees know who this person is. And they were definitely legitimate emails, because they were coming through our spam filter. It didn't stop it because it's past SPF. Everything was checking out fine. It was coming from their mail servers. There's stuff like that's really hard to block. Now, luckily, no one at my client fell for it, but eventually the hackers gave up and just put ransomware on his buddies' servers, and they wound up paying $250,000 to get the data back. So, and then the next thing you know, the feds show up and they're looking for actually data links between the buildings to see if there was anything like physically placed there, but there wasn't. It was all done. And it was all done through social engineering. They were very targeted on my client. Got to know the employees, the owner, his friends, who he hangs out with. And this is all, like I said, it's public information, right? All you got to do is look on Facebook. They don't hide anything. What is data lake? What do you mean by that, Haley?
I think
I
he
think you
said
just
data
did you say
link.
did you say data link or data lake? I heard data lake. That's
Oh.
why I asked.
Sorry, link. No, like a wireless connection, maybe like a wireless
Got it.
bridge put up between the two buildings. I apologize.
No problem. I just misheard it, and I was like, maybe it's something that's like cyber related. That's what I was thinking. So
No, the FBI actually came and climbed up on the roof to look for everything, but personally, I think we would have noticed if something was plugged into the network. At least I hope so, or else my team wasn't doing their job, right? So, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. I actually had another client. This one, my client did fail, and once they failed, they started paying for training. But basically, their vendor got hacked. They were buying this $250,000 oven for them, and they knew about it. And their vendor was hacked. Their email was compromised, and the hacker was, basically monitoring all the email coming out of the AR department, and saw the invoice come through, and it was, it was good. It was legit. And it was like the next day, once they got it, they actually asked if, because they wanted to expedite it, is there any way they could do a wire transfer? And these hackers were pros. They actually had a bank account set up, and I don't know how they did this part, but they had a bank account set up with the vendor's name and everything. It looked really legit. And it wasn't at some weird bank. It was at Bank of America. So how they did it, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know that part of it. But, I was brought in to really kind of figure it out. And And like, this is legit. Those guys got hacked. I talked to their vendor, and once I started looking at their security, it was horrendous. So it was awful. There's no question where the hack came from. So, but they got taken for $250,000. So
The
just
bank
like that.
couldn't hold the money. There was no
They-
way for the bank to intervene.
they got some of it back, not all of it, but wire transfers aren't like a credit card. You know, you just can't call and say this is fraud and they give it back to you. So it took them, you know, I think it was like 8 months till they got something back. It was quite some time. But just imagine, like, you know, a smaller company, if you lose $250,000 just like that, it could shut you down.
I have a question.
Mhm.
And so now that most of the businesses and homes are going smart, there's going to be even, I guess, they're building smart cities as well. Would that make it a lot? It seems like that would make it a lot easier for, you know, the places to be hacked, you know, neighbors, because you're talking about cities, you know, small towns and our homes, and then like now there are appliances like dishwashers, washers, dryers, and all of these appliances, lights, outside lights, and all that. Would that make it a lot easier? Would that make, not easier, but would it flag like as a target or?
Oh yeah, they've already bricked coffee makers and washing machines and all these, the IoT devices. And now I have a question for you, Maria. Do you have any of these smart devices, even like a Roku or any of those devices on the same network that you do your banking on in your home?
I have Subnet.
What about a Ring camera? I really like Ring cameras.
It's not online.
Okay. But do you keep it on your same network?
On the extension, but I see what you're saying. If we're using the Wi-Fi to be able to connect, so that means I was actually thinking of subnetting my house into different things and then just allocating one place for just the devices, and then another place, sort of like the businesses do.
Yeah, I do it for my clients. As far as completely subnetting your house, that's going to get pretty expensive to get the proper hardware. But you can set up most home routers and access points. They can do multiple SSIDs and isolate the traffic.
Yeah, are you talking about like where we actually just enter the MAC IDs of all the apparatus in our houses?
No. That only protects you from someone joining your wireless network. Does that make sense? It doesn't stop someone that hacks an IoT device to hop from that device over to your computer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're coming in through the internet. They're on your network at that point. So, like, if you come to my house, I live in a more rural area, so I have a couple acres and I have some cameras out. Actually, more to see deer and stuff, but I actually have an SSID called Ring-a-Ding, and the only thing on it is my Ring cameras. I don't, you know, Ring's pretty good. You know, most of the hacks you see with the stolen videos or whatever are compromised passwords, but you know, Ring's going to get hacked at some point. They're going to find a flaw at some point, guaranteed. I don't keep any IoT device on the same network as I have my computers on. And I highly suggest not doing that.
So you
Side
have your,
question, Ed.
Excuse me.
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question on the side regarding IoT devices and the companies, manufacturers. Do you feel there needs to be more oversight on the government side as penalizing for security in the patches from that end, on the legal, for them to be held more accountable?
How long do you have to wait in line when you go to the DMV or anything you need done with the government? How long does it take?
Pretty long time. Usually it has to go through the big
It
guys.
takes a millisecond to hack someone. I don't want the government involved with it personally because they can't react fast enough.
I heard from I'm not gonna say who, was one of the professors back in one of my cybersecurity classes, that the government actually knew about all of these vulnerabilities, but they don't want to say anything because they're like Big Brother.
Well, yeah, and they use the vulnerabilities for their own advantage.
Exactly, and it kind of
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so you really need to take it upon yourself, and if you really want to get into this field and continue to do it, I mean, cybersecurity, really kind of starts in a home, and because especially now with everyone working remotely, right? If I can get into your IoT device and then hop over to your computer and your VPN's connected to the corporate network, bam, I'm on the corporate network. Does that make sense? So,
so even if you did the VPNs, it doesn't matter because they go in through their IoT device.
well, I hop from the IoT device to your computer that has the VPN open. Does that make sense? So, that's just an example. So there's many ways to do remote access for business now. And I can tell you the whole COVID thing and more people working from home has created new challenges. How can I say this? When COVID hit, a lot of my colleagues were scrambling to get their clients ready for this. Just because of the type of clients we have and the way we do things, our clients were actually ready for it. So they've already been working remotely. It didn't matter. We had it all in place. But when everyone started working from home, it was wide open. Trust me, it was bad. So it was real bad. Let's see. Are you saying turn off Bluetooth when not using it? Are you talking from your headset to your phone? What part are you talking about? IoT. Okay, I'm going to ask you what kind of device that is IoT is connected via Bluetooth, watch or headset. Okay. I don't worry too much about Bluetooth only because of the range, to be honest with you. Pairing is, you got to pair things. Bluetooth is a little different. And as far as like watches and stuff go, I don't wear anything like that. I don't even wear a wedding ring, and I've been married for 20 years now. I just don't like any jewelry, so they won't. To be honest with you, yeah, I'm not too worried about the Bluetooth. What if you have a Wi-Fi router for all connections in your home? Your Wi-Fi router should hopefully allow you to set up multiple SSIDs. What kind of router do you have, Eugene? Did you ask me that? Oh no, Juan, sorry. Juan?
I just meant to get a VPN router set up in the house for all the connections.
What are you trying to accomplish?
For the IoT devices.
Like I said, with mine, I put my IoT devices on a completely different SSID, a wireless network, and that wireless network is not allowed to talk to any of my private network. All it can do is get to the internet. Does that make sense? So I actually, really at my house, I have four different SSIDs. So I kind of isolate everything, and it's the easiest, least expensive thing to do, and it'll make you pretty secure. So because it basically what happens when someone comes in on an IoT device, they'll try to scan the network and see what other devices are on there. And if they hop from ring camera to ring camera, I'm not too concerned about it. All my cameras are outside. I don't keep anything inside, so no one can look inside my house if they get hacked. I don't do anything like that. So some things come down to common sense, if you ask me. MAC filtering of devices. Again, MAC filtering will only allow you to connect to the wireless. You already have your device that's connected to it. You allowed that MAC address already. I'm coming in through that device to see everything else in your network. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use an existing approved MAC address. Did that answer your question, Eugene? If your email or number is on the
Yes, you
web.
did. Yes, you did. Thank you.
Sure. If your email or number is on the dark web, what can you do about it? Yeah, it's there forever. Just change your password. It's there. There's really nothing you can do about it. For those of you who have not seen the result, I'll share my screen and I'll show you my results. If you guys want to see it. You guys,
Sure.
okay. If I'm allowed to.
Yes.
Yeah. Here we go. That's what I want. So it's a different report. This is, we'll say, more the paid report. And it shows you more the disclosure. So the report you guys have, that it'll show you the origin, where it came from and everything else. This PII is your personal identifiable information that's out there on that website, right? And it shows part of it. Now, I mean, I know some of these passwords, right? I recognize them. They're really old. I change my passwords on a regular basis. And I also use a password manager. And I use a lot of multi-factor authentication. So any place that uses multi-factor authentication, I highly suggest using it. Do you have any questions on this report? Or can I
How often would you think is a good rule of thumb for people to change their passwords on, like, say, their devices and other networks and stuff like that?
Are you talking on like hardware devices or websites or?
Well, say your personal phone and or business phone and or like your network.
Well, I use random passwords for all my hardware. So they're not the same. Like I said, I use a password manager. I actually use one for business and one for personal. So, and I use a lot of OTP, which is the one-time password multi-factor. I use LastPass, yes, for my personal. On the business side, we have a different app that we use for that. But RSA, I use Authy for my. Is everyone from? I know I mentioned it to a few emails. Again, I don't care if I show you Authy because can't really get into it. I'll share it here. Let me see if I can. There we go. So this is Authy, right? So you can see I have just a bunch of different accounts in here. These are all multi-factor. So you can see it's randomly generated every 30 seconds. Well, let me resize it, but oh, there we go. So this I can copy and paste right out of here into my web browser, whatever I'm logging into. This is also on my phone, right? So if you use like the Microsoft Authenticator, it's kind of strange, but Microsoft doesn't have a authenticator that runs on your PC or Mac. Authy will run on both. So I do have one application where I have to use a different authenticator, and it only works on the phone. And my phone broke on like a early Saturday morning, and until I got it back, it was like Tuesday, and during that whole time I was locked out, right? I wasn't able to log in. So that's why I like something like Authy, where it's both on my PC and my phone. So if my phone breaks or whatever, I can still access everything I need to until I get it replaced. Because I am kind of a klutz and I drop things on occasion.
So is that considered multi-factor authentication, the Authy?
Yeah.
So how many times? Is it 3 times or just 2 times to log in?
Well, you need my username and password, and then you need that they call an OTP, one-time password, which is that generated every 30 seconds.
Thank you.
So Facebook has it. You can set it up on a lot of different things. So, and I would really set it up on Facebook personally, because the last thing you guys want is someone getting into your Facebook and posting some things that'll never go away. Especially if you're trying to get a job. I know technically they're not supposed to look at Facebook posts for that, but think reality, not what you're supposed to do. So once it's out there, it's found everywhere. So Instagram has it too, whatever your social media of choice is. Because social media is actually it's a social engineering dream. So how many people are familiar with Nextdoor? Did you guys ever use Nextdoor? All right, I'm an old guy, so I use it. For those that are not familiar with it, personally, I like it. Like I said, I live in a rural area, so it's very centered around a very small geographical area. And I got to deal with wildfires, and my home is basically up by Prescott, so we're surrounded by fires right now from all directions. So Nextdoor is really nice. People hop in and keep everyone updated. However, I know way too much about my neighbors. Some of the things they post, pictures inside their house, their cats' names, their dogs' names, their addresses. They make it way too easy. So way too easy. Luckily, I'm not a hacker, but it's interesting what people will post. Like even like I'm looking for, you know, a carpenter or whatever to fix this, you know, someone to pave my driveway or do whatever, and they put their phone numbers out there. Have them call me, do this, and it's like, you guys are nuts. So please don't do that.
That was the old way of doing business. It was like putting all your information in a card and or, you know, flyers and or whatever, if you were like an independent contractor. That was the old way of doing business, like advertising your phone, your, you know.
You still have to do that for business.
Right, but would it be better to like use those disposable numbers from the, if you're doing business, and how would you keep the business just better through email?
The only thing that's good from those disposable numbers, and really what they're used for, are the ones that rotate. It's to track where the lead is coming from. It's not anything to really hide your identity. They don't really use it for that. It's more for marketing, to track what works, what doesn't work. So, and to be honest with you, I want everyone to know my phone number, right? Because I am a business. I want people to call me if they need help. I want that interaction. So like, how many times do you go to a website where you need help and you can't find a phone number and you're just irritated, right? I mean,
And their bots don't know what you want, you know, what you need. The bots are only, you know,
yeah.
programmed to do so many things.
Yeah, and then you deal with someone on chat and they don't have a clue on what they're doing either. So, yeah, that's a whole different thing. I don't want my cell phone out there, but I want my business line out there. So, I mean, I pay people to answer it. It's just the way it is. So, yeah.
So basically,
If you want to be a contractor, you gotta keep it public.
So basically, you don't want a phone number that's tied to a lot of other personal things.
You mean like your personal cell phone?
You know, yeah, like if you are a small business, you would want to use just one phone number where you advertise with your phone number, as well as use it for your personal information, down to like everything now.
I have in my business, and like I said, I'm not a marketing guy. This is just what works for me. I have 2 phone numbers. One is basically sales and one is support. And that's it. Right? I can tell generally pretty much when people are asking certain things, how they heard about me. Does that make sense? So I don't really have a need for all those random numbers. I have them, but I don't use them. You know, it's part of my platform I use for my website, but I don't use them personally. So.
And what are some things you enjoyed along the journey from transitioning with working for an employer to you becoming your own company?
Well, I like doing a lot of different things, right? So when you work for a company, a big corporation, I mean, I worked for some big ones. A lot of times you're channeled in a certain direction. You're locked in at, like, you might be the exchange administrator, the Office 365, backup guy. You're kind of channeled, and a lot of times you're locked in that. I get bored. So I also like helping people. I like the way for what I like to do, this is the best way for me to go. Because like when I go in to meet a new client, I just listen, right? I learn their business. I figure out what they're doing. All the time in the background, I'm just thinking about, yeah, you need to fix this in your security. I know what they need to fix. I'm thinking about it the whole time, like, and I've been doing it long enough now where, like, say, you're like a pharmaceutical. I know what kind of regulations they have to deal with the FDA, right? If you're in distribution, right? Especially if you distribute into California now and you hold personal information on your delivery, right? You got to be able to mask that data, because of what do they call it, CPCC law or something like that. It's a California law now. So because anyone can call you and say, hey, you got to hide this information out of and wipe it out of your database. So once you it takes experience, it'll come with experience. How's that, right? But I love learning new things all the time, right? So you get stagnant in a large corporation most of the time.
So us in the trying to get into the security world, possibly, let's say we shoot for a SOC position, one. Afterwards, working our way up. What are some other careers that we can do a lateral move towards, or change after a SOC position?
So, you have to understand that SOC position, right? I can't do it. I could not do a SOC position. I'll be honest with you. It's too much just watching data and bits fly back and forth. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? See my video locked. Okay, good. Like I said, I like doing more of the social engineering. I like trying to do the hacking. I like, trying to figure things out. So I think this is the myth of cybersecurity right now, is that it's just watching your firewall and seeing what packets come in. There's so much more to it than that. And not everyone can do the social engineering side. Not everyone has a personality where they can, go meet people and try to, we'll say, manipulate them, right? And get data out of them and find a path in, right? So if you're good at that, that might be the path you want to go down, right?
So is there a way to try to get a entry level instead with per se more on the social engineering side?
Yeah, I mean, you just basically have to apply for a job for a company that does it, right? And you are going to need to obviously know some of the technical side too, right? But I can tell you with internally here, I prefer to hire people that are, we'll say, more like in the trades versus a degree, like a 4-year degree, and someone who wants to learn, and I don't mind teaching them. And we'll figure out what they're good at. Go ahead.
I have a question for you. So what degree certificates do you suggest if someone wanted into your type of field? Like, would it have to be A+ networking and cybersecurity, or just networking cybersecurity, or just cybersecurity?
All of the above are good.
But say you only wanted to just do 2, would it be like networking and cybersecurity, or it doesn't matter? So is it the more certificates you have, the more validation you have, or is it skills, or?
Well, if you want to specifically do cybersecurity, I think you're better off with your network and cyber. A+. I'm not A plus is better than it used to be.
Right.
They've made it a lot better, a lot more challenging. But what you have to remember is the way prices are going and the time it takes. Like, you know, I'm not cheap. My competitors aren't cheap, right? My peers, we're not cheap. So we really don't spend a whole lot of time fixing computers.
Right. The other question that I have for you is, so basically social engineer would be sort of like a salesperson trying to figure out their client, you know, as you're speaking with someone, you're having these key questions to figure them out.
Yes and no. A salesperson is a salesperson. You got to have a little technical knowledge in order to do the social engineering side too.
Well,
You-
yeah.
You need to know what you're picking up on, like, you know, what people are telling you, how you can manipulate it and use it to your advantage. And most salespeople won't recognize that. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, there's, yeah. So more, okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. We need sales guys though. They bring in the revenue.
Well, you know, some traits where you're taught where, you know, you kind of do an interview type of handshake.
Mhm.
So, you know, within that interview, you're actually, you know, talking to the person, figuring out their personality, figuring out, you know, just different things to see if they're going to be a good fit for your product.
Yeah,
But, right,
I agree with you on that. And that's why like real hard core techies generally don't make good social engineering. Does that
yeah,
make
and then
sense?
if you have the background, you know, with the tech role and that experience of knowing how to connect with people,
Mhm.
a good trait for a social engineer. What is it, researcher or?
You mean like a job title you're looking for this position? I don't know what you want to call it, but you do need, and you know, I don't want to bash anyone here, but I've been doing tech a long time. We all know about it. Not all techs have good social skills, right? So um, they're not going to want to do the social engineering. They want to do more the networking and the hacking and stuff like that. And that's fine. We need people in all of them, right? So um,
So,
same as the training, you know, you have to do the training as part of the social engineering.
okay, somebody else has questions. Thank you.
Who wants to know about Kevin Mitnick? What do you want to know about Kevin?
Well, someone had asked about him a few minutes ago. I was just wondering if they were referring to the book Ghost in the Wires, or if there was something else specific about his hacking from the 80s or the 90s that someone was referencing. So
Yeah, he's considered like the most famous hacker, and a lot of his stuff was social engineering. Uh,
A lot of his, yes.
so in other words, if I would like to learn more about this particular discipline and get an insight, you know, it's kind of like learn on the job thing. Is there any other books or resources you could recommend on this discipline?
So actually, if I had it handy, I'd show you Kevin Mitnick's business card. It's actually pretty cool. So I got to spend some time with Kevin. I met Kevin a few times. But he has his name isn't on it, but there's he does a lot of it in the background. A company called No4. I think that's what it's called. So you can learn a lot off that site. And as an MSP or MSSSP, we can offer that as a service. I particularly don't use that one, but yeah. Let me see what that is. Yeah, the lockpick business card. Yeah, I have one of those. So somebody found it. Good for you guys. It's actually pretty neat. But Kevin does a lot of speaking now. he does a lot of speaking, and his team actually does more the hacks. And actually, I've learned a lot of social engineering through Kevin. He is pretty good, and one of his, he started out hacking drive-throughs at McDonald's and stuff like that, right? So, like, would just say some crude things to people sitting at the drive-through. He's an interesting guy. So, but he also now has the cable the Ninja USB cable, if you're familiar with that, where basically I can give you a cable to charge your phone, and as soon as you connect it, I can actually start stealing data off your phone. So I actually have one of those too.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ed. It is 9:01, so I want to be mindful of your time as well as everyone else's time. I'm going to stop recording, but for those who want to unmute and thank Ed for his time, you may do so now.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
Ed.
Thank you very much.
And I put my email address in there. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email.
I will definitely reach out to you. Thanks, Ed.
All right.
Awesome.
Take care.
Bye, Ed.